At the end of the first day of the bond trial in Fulchester Crown Court, there were excited scenes as both defendants, Trevor Luckhurst and Jill Sawyer, refused to continue to recognise the jurisdiction of the court. Luckhurst had just been pressed by the prosecution, led by Mr. Fry, QC, as to the ownership of a pair of plimsolls. These plimsolls bore splinters of glass, which tests showed to have come from the building, wrecked by a bomb which the Crown claims to have been placed by the accused. The judge, Mr. Justice Waddington, adjourned the proceedings, but now the court has reassembled.
Do I understand, Mr. Elliot, that the court is not required to take seriously Miss Sawyer's admission of guilt during yesterday's regrettable outburst?
Most obliged, my lord. Members of the jury, I do not now propose to call Miss Sawyer due to her nervous condition. I wish to call the first of two alibi witnesses. Mr. Peter Thornhill, please.
I take it that the prosecution were served with proper alibi notices.
Yes, my lord.
I'm an atheist.
Oh, will you affirm the oath then, please?
I do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Peter Thornhill?
Right.
You live at flat 5, 98 Bromfield Road, Fulchester.
Right.
What is your occupation?
Commercial artist.
Now, would you think back to March the 10th this year?
Yeah.
Can you recall your movements on that day?
Yeah.
It was some time ago.
I keep a diary.
Do you write this diary every day?
Yeah.
Do you have an entry for March the 10th describing your activities?
Right.
Do you have the diary with you now? Would you read out to us the entry for March the 10th, please?
Trevor and Jill coming over this afternoon. Brian Parker calling in to pick up Folio.
Did Mr. Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer arrive?
Yeah.
And how long did they stay?
I left about 8:30.
What were you doing during this time?
Well, this other cat, you know, Brian, he hung around for an hour or so, and he came back later, and the rest of the time we just sat around.
Did either Trevor or Jill leave the flat for any length of time?
No.
Are you sure?
Why should they want to? I live in the outskirts of town, middle of suburbia. The only time people in my neighbourhood go out is on a Sunday to wash their cars. None of us has a car.
Were you with Mr. Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer throughout the period of time from 3 o'clock until about 8:30 on March the 10th this year at your flat in Bromfield Road?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Thornhill?
That's me.
You sat around all day with the defendants?
Right.
Doing what?
Nothing much.
Smoking pot?
Lord, this is unwarranted and irrelevant.
In my submission it is not, my lord. I see the witness has twice been prosecuted for possession of cannabis. Now, if, say, Mr. Thornhill went fast asleep, it's quite possible that Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer could have left his flat, planted the bomb, returned without him being aware.
Look, we sat around, we played some records, we drank some wine, OK?
March 10th was a Friday. Now, you say you have a job. When do you perform it?
When I feel like it.
How nice feel.
It is.
So, on the day in question, a weekday, you just lazed around, drinking and playing records.
Right.
I wish I could afford such luxuries.
I bet you do.
Did anyone else besides this other person, Brian, see you all lying around for 5 hours?
Well, if they did, I didn't see them.
What kind of answer's that?
A truthful one.
Implying the others were not?
You're going to have to do better than that.
Now, that will do. Oh, he does have a point, Mr. Lotterby.
For someone with such an erratic way of life, isn't it strange to keep such a precise diary?
Is it?
Could you not have made the event, the The entry for March the 10th, after the event, say a month after.
Why is it you question my diary, but you accept police notebooks like Holy Writ?
I won't warn you again. You must answer the question.
No more questions.
Brian Parker, please.
Brian Parker.
What is your oath, please? CV. Will you take the book in the right hand and swear the oath? I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Cool.
You are Brian Parker, you live at 3 Park Hill, Fulchester, and you're a director of the Faber Shoe Company.
Yes.
Now, on March the 10th this year, did you have occasion to go to a flat situated in Bromfield Road?
Yes.
Will you explain to us why?
Mr. Thornfield, the tenant of the flat, had some folios to show me. I was considering him to design an advertising poster for my firm. I said I would call back to inspect the folio of his previous work.
And what time did you get there?
4 o'clock.
Was anyone else in the flat?
Yes.
Who?
Those two, Trevor Luckhurst and Jill.
Now, how long did you stay on this first visit?
Half an hour.
And did you return later?
Yes.
Why?
To return the folio, I'd shown it to my managing director, who was agreeable to employing Mr. Thornhill.
What time was your second visit?
6:30.
And was there anyone present beside Mr. Thornhill?
Oh, Trevor and Jill were still there.
What were they doing?
I thought they were pretty stoned. Drunk, my lord.
How long did you stay this time?
The second time, about half an hour.
So you left about 7.
Yes.
Were Mr. Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer still there when you left?
Yes. Jill actually was asleep.
Thank you.
Mr. Parker, were the defendants known to you before you visited Mr. Thornhill?
No, sir.
See, I notice you call them Trevor and Jill.
Well, not when I first met them.
Oh, I see you've become friendly since.
No. I will call them Mr. Luckhurst and Miss Sawyer, if you like. It's just a bit of a mouthful, that's all.
Mr. Parker, you appear very certain of the times you arrived and left Mr. Thornhill's flat.
Yes.
Now, I appreciate you're a busy man during the week, unlike the person you went to visit, and like to keep track of time. But this time, could you be a bit mistaken?
I don't think so.
Think?
I am not mistaken.
On your second visit, for instance,
Yes.
you say you arrived at 6:30, not about 6:30. It all sounds very precise.
Well, I leave work every day at 6. It takes me 10 minutes to collect my car and 20 to drive in the rush hour to Bromfield Road. I pass it most days. It was exactly 6:30 when I got there.
The last witness for the defence is a character witness, my lord. I wish to call Mrs. Sawyer, the mother of Jill Sawyer.
Elizabeth Sawyer.
What is your religion, please?
Church of England.
Right, will you take the book in your right hand and read the oath?
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Mrs. Elizabeth Sawyer, mother of Jill Sawyer, and you reside at the Cedars, Fairford.
Yes.
Do sit down, if you wish, Mrs. Sawyer.
Thank you, my lord. I'll be all right.
Mrs. Sawyer, I don't propose to keep you very long. I would just like you to tell the court a few details concerning Jill. You're willing to do that?
Yes.
Now, your daughter won a scholarship to St. Hilda's College, Oxford, I understand.
Yes.
What subject did she read?
English.
And what were her last few school reports like?
Well, they said she was a brilliant pupil with a fine analytical mind.
Anything about her background?
One remark was that she ought to try and overcome a certain shyness. Jill always had trouble communicating with people, particularly strangers.
In what way, Mrs. Sawyer?
How do you mean?
Was she aggressive towards them? Hostile?
Oh, no. No, on the contrary, she was, well, a little timid, if anything.
As her mother?
She takes things to heart.
As her mother, what would you say this was due to?
Well, Jill's a sensitive girl, and she feels things like that very much.
What kind of things?
Well, if anyone speaks sharply to her, or if they're unkind in any way.
Has Jill ever expressed any political views to you, Mrs. Sawyer?
No, not really. Not until this dreadful business happened. I had no idea. I simply wasn't the least bit aware of what she'd been doing, and then suddenly, one day last February, she telephoned me to say she'd decided to leave Oxford. Just like that. I begged her to come home so we could talk about it.
With you and your husband?
My husband's been working abroad for the past year. We hardly see him at all.
I see. Please, do go on.
But, she wouldn't.
She wouldn't? She wouldn't come home?
I knew she had a man friend, although she never talked about him. Not much, anyway. She said she thought she was wasting her time at Oxford, that it all seemed so trivial, and that she'd already told them she wanted to leave. I was horrified. All that work. I heard nothing from her for 2 weeks. Then she said she was living in Fulchester, that she was happy, involved in some interesting work, and told me not to worry. And then she was arrested over this dreadful bomb business. She was allowed bail and came home in my charge. And I learned then that she'd been involved in a protest group against the company, but Jill always loathed violence. I remember when she used to be physically sick if she even saw anything brutal. She hasn't changed. Oh, I know people will say she has, and what does any mother know about her children these days? Perhaps it simply proves how far apart parents and children are today. Of course, she has changed in some ways. In her view, she's grown up. All I do know is she just could not have agreed to blow up that place. And even less could she have taken part in putting the bomb in the building. No one could persuade her to do such a terrible thing. No one.
Thank you, Mrs. Sawyer.
I have no questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Sawyer. I'm aware what an ordeal it must have been for you to come here and submit to the pressures of this court.
Thank you.
That concludes the case for the defendants, my lord.